The number here is 619-0985. All right, people, you have to listen up, pay attention. Next 10 minutes, we're going to have a serious discussion with a great guy who's joining us from Georgia, near Atlanta. John Trautwein, who pitched for the Red Sox in 1988. John, how are you?
I'm doing great, Dan. How about yourself?
Well, I'm fine, thank you. Thanks for joining us. Okay,
My
the quick
pleasure.
background on this guy is the Red Sox picked him up in the winter draft before the 88 season. John Trautwein was undrafted. He had not played in the big leagues. The Sox put him on the roster in the 88 season. He did not pitch a lot. It was kind of a Moonlight Graham kind of a season. It was Morgan Magic. They won 19 out of 20 under Joe Morgan. They went to the American League Championship Series. They got swept by the A's. John Trautwein was along for the ride the whole way, gave up a tremendous home run to Mark McGwire that's still traveling, and I think John has copies of it. He can send you all. And John has gone on to be a corporate giant in the chemical industry. He can explain that. And John went to Northwestern with Joe Girardi, played together. You're going to visit Joe this weekend, correct?
That's correct.
John Trautwein and his family are coming up to Fenway Park. He'll be in Autograph Alley tomorrow. I think the window on that is 5:30 to 6:30. If you want to get John Trautwein's autograph, talk to him about the Morgan Magic year of 1988. John, his family has not been to Fenway Park in his retirement, so he's coming back, and he can point to where that home run landed. It's a little different out there, John, from when McGwire hit that shot off of you. And at this point, I want to say welcome, and are you looking forward to bringing your family to Fenway?
Well, thanks very much, Dan, and a resounding yes. This will be the first time that my wife Susie and my boys Tommy and Michael and my little daughter Holland have visited Fenway Park, and I'm finally going to be able to prove to all of them that I did indeed play for the Red Sox.
And at this point, I want you to speak about the Will to Live Foundation, your son Will, and what is part of the mission of your life these days.
Oh, well, I appreciate that, and so when I mentioned my kid's name coming to Fenway, there will be a big hole in the Trautwein family, in that our oldest son Will not be with us as he took his own life last October 15th. So just 9 short months ago, we suffered that tragedy that no parent ever wants to go through in losing Will. He was 15. He was big and strong and healthy and had the world in the palm of his hand. And his suicide took us completely by surprise, Dan, as you know. And as a result, my wife and I immediately, along with some very, very close friends, in fact, I work for a company called Source Support Services here now in Atlanta. It's a warranty services organization, and the CEO, Mark Oldfield, and I basically discussed forming this foundation the day that Will died. And we ended up calling it the Will to Live Foundation, with a clear goal of spreading the message that teen suicide is truly an epidemic here in America. And if it can happen to a young man like Will, who came from a very, very loving family, was very successful in all walks of his life, showed no signs of any sort of depression or any sort of problems, if you will. And if it can happen to a young man like him, then really it can happen to anybody. And we're just committing ourselves to getting that word out, and not only amongst the adults of the world, but also amongst the kids of the world. That it is a difficult world that these high school kids, these young teenagers and young adults are living in today. And we want them to realize that we realize it's hard. They have it much harder than we had it when we were kids. They have much more opportunities, and they have many more niceties than perhaps we had. But with all that comes incredible amount of pressure that we didn't face at that young age. So we're trying to work with these kids to get them to understand that they truly have wonderful friends and loved ones, and we call them life teammates in their lives today, that they can turn to and they can talk to, and that they're not alone in their troubles and their strifes. And it's been very, very rewarding to Susie and myself in the response that we've received, not only in Atlanta, but really around America, and even in many parts international, where this concept of teen suicide is indeed is unfortunately, Dan, it's everywhere. And it seems like everywhere we go, somebody has a story, has a relation to it. And they're very, very receptive to what we're trying to do, and that really does encourage us, and it helps us in our own healing.
We're speaking with John Trotwine, who pitched for the Red Sox in the pennant-winning season of 1988. John's coming up to Boston. He'll be in Autograph Alley at Fenway Park tomorrow from 5:30 to 6:30. If you want to stop by and talk to him about the Will to Live Foundation, that might be a good idea. And I think the misconceptions are there about, teens at risk, and people don't know what's in their own house in some cases, and you think everything looks good. What would you tell parents to keep an eye out for?
Yeah, great question. And obviously, I'm telling myself, right? I have 3 more kids, and we basically, the best thing to keep an eye out for is just, are they being secluded? I'm quoting what the people have told me, and
Sure.
and the unfortunate part about this is when people said what to look for, my wife and I looked at each other and said, Will didn't have any of that.
Yeah.
So it's very, very difficult, and obviously there's obvious signs of clear loneliness, wanting to be alone, recluding into the rooms and things like that. Will didn't do any of that. I think the better advice I can give, Dan, is to have the parents just continually talk to the kids and continually try to give the kids the message that they, as parents, understand that life is hard for these kids these days. And what the experts are telling me, that if the kids hear that from their parents, they may not respond and they may not agree, but deep down it's a good thing that they hear that their parents understand and realize that the kids today are going through things at a much younger age than when we went through them when we were young, when we were kids.
We're speaking with John Trotwine, who pitched for the 1988 Red Sox, who I just interrupted. I'm sorry. John, there's a Wellesley connection to your foundation as well, is there not?
Yeah, there is. Mental Health Screening is an organization, a wonderful organization in Wellesley, and they've been a big help to me in learning about suicide awareness. My foundation, the Will to Live Foundation, is really about getting kids to work together and getting kids to love each other and giving them the opportunity to spread the awareness in the communities that teen suicide and depression and mental health is a disease and not a crime. And so they have been a big help in sort of educating me on how to do this and what to tell kids and how to get kids to listen a little bit better to each other and also to communicate a little bit better to each other. So that's been a big help, and I've enjoyed working with them.
John Trotwine, if someone wants to connect with the organization, how would they do that?
Oh, great, Dan. Thanks. The best way is really our website is www.will-2-live.org, and friends@will-2-live.org is the email. And that's probably the best way, and the phone numbers are on there, and a lot of details of the fun things that we've been doing and the fun opportunities and activities we've had with the kids to get them to work together to help spread this message and build these great life teammate bonds at the same time.
The other thing you listeners can do is show up at Fenway tomorrow and go to Autograph Alley between 5:30 and 6:30. Say hello to John, talk about the 88 season, talk about Morgan Magic. If you choose to, talk about the Will to Live Foundation. John and his family are going to be there. I'll be happy to share their story with you and help everybody along in the cause. Lastly, John, is there any way people can get the video of the McGwire home run off you?
Yes, they can, Dan. Thank you so much for asking.
How do they do that?
It's on YouTube. I think if you search YouTube McGwire Blast or McGwire Blast off of Troutwine, you'll see it. And it was a sad day in back in 1988 when he hit it, but now I'm kind of glad he did because it's a lot of fun.
My son loved it because John gave up in his career only 2 home runs, Alvin Davis and Mark McGwire, and I showed this video to my son. He said, no, he gave up 2.5 homers. So the thing is still going. John, we'll look for you at Fenway tomorrow. Thanks so much for joining us. Enjoy the trip up here with your family.
Thanks so much, Dan. Great to talk to you, buddy.
Take care, John. The number here is 617-779-0985. I'm Dan Shaughnessy, filling in for Tony Maserati on the Baseball Reporters. We'll see you on the other side of the